and co-founder of Zebra Partners. I have been doing that for 8 years. There's a virtual team of us all around the world. We focus on marketing, PR, branding, grassroots, all that. I formerly the head of marketing communications for Nintendo for 16 years and left after launching the Wii. So I had a glorious ride there, parlayed it into a great company where we help startups all the way up to really large Fortune 500 companies. So we're able to scale the whole thing. It's very satisfying and fun. So for launching your product, basically it starts with envisioning success and being brutally honest with yourself. And that may seem like a really weird thing to jump into, but let me explain as we go. So again, why I chose this basic topic, people say, okay, well, we're ready to bring this to market. Curating a product for market is an art. There's no science to it. Rushing and not being true to yourself can equal an epic failure. And if you're a startup, that equals loss of money. The basics, this is the main reason I chose this topic, the basics are frequently missed. People miss the fundamental pillars that hold the foundation for launching a product. So we're going to run through those today. Hopefully these lists will help you in thought process about what you do. Questions to ask yourself. Are you ready to launch? I want to know who likes my little rocket ship there. That's what you find on the web at 11 at night. So who's your target audience? Is this product what they want? Do you know what your competition is? Or something that would be considered competition that you may not see as competition? How unique is your product, and how is it unique? Is it at the right stage for it to hit the market? There's a lot of dynamics. Our industry is amazing, changing daily, if not hourly, and there's always a right time for things. And you know, we've seen great companies try to launch something at the wrong time, and they have a failure when really they should have had a success. Does your product work flawlessly? What is your multi-pronged plan? You can't just put it out in the marketplace into one stream and expect it to have success unless you've been marketing way ahead of time. And what is your backup plan? So these are the truisms that I have witnessed, and several of these comments are actually quotes are from me over my extensive career, and I believe these to absolutely be true. And so hold them in your heart as you're thinking about your own business. You launch only once. People say you can do it later, fix it later. It's kind of like putting toothpaste back in the tube. Doesn't really work very well. Marketing is PR. Marketing and PR is an art and not a science. So people have expectations of what's going to happen when you market something, launch something, put it in the marketplace, but it's an art. I mean, we're humans, we have emotions. It's in that whole field of art versus the science of specific coding or otherwise. So you have to appreciate that art is a very subjective thing. Basically, your product and your team are the key to success. So if you have an amazing team and a great product, your success is limitless. If you have an amazing team and a poor product, you're lucky. If you have an average team and a poor product, do not launch. And most people would be like, why is someone in marketing saying don't launch? If you are not ready, you got to take the time to get it right. Otherwise, don't do it. Unless you're representing a huge company that understands the risk of that, you are giving away the most precious thing that you have, which is trying to start your company. So here are the foundational elements for a marketing plan. It seems like a lot, but if you look at these in a linear fashion, because they do start with goals and objectives, and it goes linear. So you have to define for yourself your goals. I have to back up for 1 second. On the thing about being brutally honest, I don't think I ever emphasized that enough. Did you make the product for you? Who did you make it for? Do you love your product? You're in love with your product because you like playing it? Is that same love going to transfer to the marketplace? Do people want it and want to love it the same way you do? So if you're marketing something because you really like it, be really honest with yourself. Is it something the market needs? Will it fill a niche? Will it bring players some kind of happiness they can't get somewhere else? So this is the linear fashion. So first your goals and objectives. And on the next slides, I'll explain what that really means. Your strategies, your targets, your brand, your messaging, your assets, what's your marketing mix, clear roles, I can't emphasize that enough, realistic timeline, and then your measurement and your ROI. Does it seem like a lot of steps? Who thinks it seems like a lot of steps? Like more than you thought it might be? Okay, 0 people, I love that. Okay, so the 4 pillars of successful marketing. You have to have well-defined goals. It's not enough to be really excited about your product, you just want to get it out there. That is not a goal. That's enthusiasm, and that's where you have to be really, really honest. Your goal needs to be, I'm going to sell to X people, this many, downloads or this many units, and then by said date, I'm going to expand it to this target. Even if those things become movable, or change because of different things, you have to set out with some defined goals. You can't just sort of put it out there. You go to the movie theater with the intention to see a said movie. So you have to have your clear objectives. What is it you're trying to accomplish? What are the steps to meet that particular goal? So what can you do, all the things that are the objectives in order to have your product be successful? And then know how to connect with your audience. Hello, ladies. Know how to connect with their audience. A lot of people are really involved in their communities, and they communicate with a lot of players, and they are the first ones that you should be sharing the love with anyway. So make sure that you're connected, that you really know what they like or don't like about your product, because it's sort of like going to a restaurant and they make a meal, and if you don't go back a second time, it's because something's not quite right. Make it so they want to keep coming back. Listen to what people have to say. And then your creativity is driven by that solid strategy. So your creative is going to fill the spaces around these defined goals and your objectives, if that makes sense. This is really, really key. This is the piece that is actually most missed. There are 2 things that are missed most often: messaging and brand. So your brand is your promise, and it is completely within your power. So by that I mean, define your brand. You buy a Volvo because it's what? Sturdy, safe. You buy a Xbox because of what? What does that brand stand for?
Halo.
Okay, there you go. It's maybe getting a little fuzzy, so they have to make sure they're constantly showing a brand. I mean, companies have to work on their brands all the time. It's the thing that you're known for, and your brand is in the middle. This is what I promise you. I promise you a car that will be safe. You get in that car and expectation is met. So you have to make sure that your brand meets that promise, and when they experience it, it's exactly what they thought they'd get. The companies that don't do this, people don't know what they do. They don't know whether they should come back. They spend a lot of money on advertising to try to get people. They're not sure what they're getting them for. So you have to take the time to do the homework to get it right. Does anybody have questions on brand? It's a really important component. And some of the exercises, you can go online and find some of the basic stuff, but the exercises really have a lot to do with emotion and your uniqueness in the marketplace. So what is the experience someone's going to have? And people always ask me what I did at Nintendo. I said, well, I sell joy. That's what I do. And they were like, well, but you do video games. Well, actually, I sell joy. You experience it, you're having joy, and that's the promise that is fulfilled every time. All right. Yep. Here's the fun part. There's so many visuals. We're all in a really visual field, whether it's, videos or different kinds of assets. Make sure you have as much cool stuff as you can. The human eye is what notices things first. The words are second. So make sure that whatever you're offering, it's not like a crappy screenshot of something because that's all you had time to do. Take the time to do it right. So there are, again, pieces that are part of bringing this to life. You have to have your announcement strategy. Who are you going to tell about your product? Where are you going to tell them? And what are you going to say? You need to do promotion beyond PR. So if you have a product that is has lots of different components to it, and if you have the budget, doing contests and a variety of those kinds of things are really great ways to get people involved. Hands-on grassroots. Getting do you ever buy a car without going to the lot and driving it? I mean, it's the same, I'm using all these car analogies, but it's the same. Hands-on grassroots, letting the people that are most interested in what you do, that are closest to your thrill about your product, have a chance to try it and try it first. And a lot of press would shudder at me suggesting that's done before you ever go to the media. I can give you the case study of we toward the end of this, but it is precisely the way to get a supportive groundswell. And media is a medium. They're not the end goal. They're a way to reach more people. Social media chatter, make sure that you don't have to be everywhere. You don't have to be on Vine and Instagram. You don't have to be on all of it. Figure out where the people you care the most about, where they hang out, and figure out what you're going to curate on those 2 or 3 different locations, and make sure what you provide is shareable. I mean, lots of times, there's a couple different sites where if you want to share it, it turns it into some really limited kind of box and it doesn't populate right. I'm like out of there. I don't have time. Your story was interesting enough to share, but if I have to think about it twice, then it's not. Leveraging your partners. If you happen to be in a business relationship with a company, or you're doing some kind of promotion together, push them as far as you can. You're there to serve each other, but frequently when you ask another company to help by doing A, B, and C, you're doubling the power of what you can do on behalf of the partnership or the product. And even if what they're doing promotes your product, and if they benefit, let's just say that they're the chip manufacturer for something, there's still going to be a benefit to them. So push it as far as you can. Tying it together, make sure that it all fits under, your goals, your objectives, all these pieces make sense. You're not going to go do something on LinkedIn if you're like working, trying to go for hardcore gamers, for example. And then clear roles, who is doing what. People, it's the worst thing that happens in a meeting. You sit down, you have these great ideas, and then, oh my God, time's up, and everybody leaves. Well, who's gonna, I thought you said you were gonna. And then, boom, time goes. And it also decreases people's satisfaction in lifting this thing off if they don't have clear ownership of something. Stay the course, measure, and move. What that means is, stay on the course that you've defined, measure it as you go, but you need to be a speedboat and be able to move quickly. Big companies have had this challenge where it's sort of like a Titanic. Oh, that ad campaign's not going to really work. And it can take, weeks to change something. In the digital age, that's improved. But it is important to really see what's happening, what's sticking, not sticking, and move and have a plan B. Or if it looks like something over here is working better, maybe you move all your resources over there. Just keep a close eye. Then you have to have your timeline, your road up to your launch, when you're going to arrive at the market, and then don't launch and leave. What are you going to do to keep that baby happy? In the traditional console days, it was launch this thing, a lot of promotion ahead of time, and then kind of a little bit of stuff afterwards, and then you move on to the next thing. Launch and leave is death. And then measurement, kind of what we just covered, but is it selling at all? What do you need to do to kind of spike that a little bit? What are your opportunities there? What's the brand chatter? What's online? What are people saying? Is it good? Is it bad? Are there critiques that you need to respond to immediately? Don't wait for something on Reddit. Answer it. Don't, 24 hours is a long time in our world. What are your partners saying? Do you have a partner that's saying something that's kind of negative, or are they saying something amazing and you say, good, I want more of that. Can you help us with X? And then what's next is how you sustain your success and stay the course on that. Wow, I did this in 15 minutes. I'm excited. So the case study of We is really an interesting one. The only reason I chose it versus some of the other amazing things we're working on with companies like DreamWorks and others is because the marketplace was such where financially Nintendo was doing very well. But perception-wise, with GameCube, it appeared that the company was third in the marketplace behind Sony and Microsoft. And in truth, the company is a company so unique into itself and does its own thing, and to always have it be compared is actually inaccurate because they are really completely different experiences. That said, I think a lot of analysts and others were saying, why do you keep making hardware? Why don't you just make software, Mario and all these amazing Zelda and all this incredible stuff you have? So for us at that time to have come out with something where people were flapping their arms seems pretty normal now. But back then, it would have been, oh my God, have they lost their minds? You have to throw your, this is insane. They're desperate. So we had to look at what the market problem was. And the flip side, hey, Ed Freeze. And the flip side, this particular product filled a niche that had not been filled before and became the must-have product to solve a problem people hadn't articulated. Time together as family, being too distant from your kids, entering the digital age as adults. So the product filled, it goes back to the what do you have that's unique, it filled a very special place that people needed, they just didn't know it until it arrived. So being really careful about how we shared the information. We didn't rush it. We were very slow about showing the box first, showing the experience separate from the box before we put it all together. And there's lots more that can be said about it, but it ultimately worked really well, and I'm so grateful to our headquarters in Japan because it could have fallen on its nose, but it, I think, started a whole new era of really fun gaming. And now we're on to sort of the next thing, which is everybody's talking about VR. But it's a really good case study of how we used all those fundamental things that I just explained, and we had to adjust and do things all along the way. When we saw that consumers were really digging it, we stopped pitching stuff to the press, and we let the consumer stuff bubble up, and it got so loud that instead of us telling the press, hey, our product's really cool, they just could see it, and it was a fact. So that's kind of how that went. And I can't believe it got done so early. It's awesome. You guys might get to have a coffee break. Any questions and answers for me? Hi.
I have a quick question. So you talked a lot about brand. Hi.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked about brand a lot, and I was having trouble distinguishing between the corporate or company brand versus a particular game brand. Are you using those interchangeably, or is there a difference in how you handle those?
It depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If your company is a small company, and let's say you have one game, it's best that you brand that product, because that's the experience they're going to get. They're not experiencing your company. They're experiencing your product. So the brand should always be attached to what the individual is going to experience on their end. If you're a large company like Microsoft, they have a corporate brand they have to worry about, and they have individual, Windows has its own deal. It does have to ladder up, though. You can't have them be completely two different things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, one other question.
So what if you're somewhere in the middle? What if you've got more than one game, but you're not Microsoft?
Right.
Or you're, trying to brand your company, even though you've got all these individual games out that may not be connected to each other?
So see if I can articulate this the right way. So your games, regardless of the kind they are, hopefully bring something unique to the marketplace. Otherwise, you wouldn't be driving so hard at creating what you're creating. There's got to be some kind of emotion around that, if that makes sense. So that would be sort of branding your family of products. So whenever they play A or C, it's attached to a brand that is consistent, and the expectation is met based on what the promise of that brand was. That makes sense?
Yeah.
But then there are tactical things you do underneath it to support that specific game. But it belongs under the roof of this.
It totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess it's more how.
How you figure out your brand, or figure out where to.
It's the more tactical piece of it, I think.
Yeah, and that's like so hard to describe in a half hour's time. But I think I heard someone whisper messaging. Who was it that said that? Come on, who was that? Do you want to come up here? No, just kidding. Messaging is, so you've got your brand, and your key messages are the few things you say about it over and over consistently that support that. So that gets deeper into more about your game. So if my message was, I'm excited, I'm going to speak today at Power Play. Someone says, so what are you doing today? Well, I'm going to go to Power Play, and I'm super excited to be doing that. Have you what do you think about gaming these days? Well, actually, I, curiously enough, going to be speaking about that at Power Play. There are ways to just weave everything together and bring it back to your few messages. When companies or individuals get in trouble on their product and veer off, humans glom onto that, and that will become your thing. Forget everything else. I mean, the head of Microsoft on diversity, I don't think that's what he really meant to say, but there was no stopping that train. And anything else that had been said at that event was completely irrelevant. So take the strongest things you want people to remember about your product, why it's unique. Just because you know the Wii product, one of the, many different messages we had. One main one was it's the first product ever in gaming to bring the whole family together. It's intuitive. You don't have to have any gaming experience to try it. You literally pick it up and play it. It's super portable, and it's actually mass market priced. And then you can get all these, amazing characters. So building it around those four things, completely different than, what Xbox was doing, for example. And so we just kept repeating those over and over and over. So a mom's going to go, wow, of all these things, I bet we could try that one. Gosh, it's not very expensive. Let's give it a go.
Okay, so from the opposite end of the scale, we know from questions this morning that we have a lot of indies in the audience. They probably can't afford a communications agency. They've only got a couple of hours a day. If you're a small sort of indie studio and you're ready for release, how do you spend the few hours that you have to help promote your product and get it ready and talk to the press or build a
Yeah.
brand?
Well, that's why I chose this as a subject, knowing that, this is mostly an indie event and you have to rely on yourself and your own resources. And that's why at the beginning I said, make sure that you're not making a product that just you love, that it has a market purpose. People are going to want it. Because you can tinker and do things. I rearranged my house and I'm super happy with it. Someone can come in and go like, that is just gross. So make sure that it's something that you know others want to play. And then don't rush it. Be really specific about these steps that I outlined. And it may be confusing because you don't really know how to do them. Quite frankly, if you have any friends that are in PR, ask for a half-hour
I was
call. I help.
more specific into, 10, 15 years ago, you put out press releases. Now we're in the social world, and we use sort of Facebook or Instagram or whatever it happens to be. What are the most efficient tools in terms of bang for the buck? Use these definitely.
It
if
depends
you've
on
got
your
time.
target audience, who you're trying to reach. And it depends on the product that you're going out with. We do have a lot of what we call bottom-up marketing. I think of as press coverage, advertising, and paid things as the top, and I think of grassroots and going straight to your community at the bottom, and your products in the middle. So you want to populate this so it's really moving. Whether it's Instagram or Vine, I mean, we have a VR company, and they didn't have any time to do a video, and it was time to announce them. They had to for their finances. Shoot an Instagram video, please. So they did. That's our video. And it was just sent out because it was super easy. So you have to think about what you're trying to do and then look at the tools. So you wouldn't say to launch, I have to be on Facebook or I have to be on Vine. Look at what you're trying to achieve first. Those are all just tools. I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay, I ask a question in a different way then. You're producing a game about horses. You've got two choices. You could either try and say, I'm a video game, so I'm going to the games market, and then we're there on the App Store with a million other games, or you've got a game about horses. Maybe you try and target the horse market and then see if there's anybody who likes horses who's also interested in video games. So it's a verb, noun, noun, verb thing, which is the most efficient way.
It's again the find out who's going to dig it as much as you. If you're really into horses, you need to go find those people that are really into horses.
Okay.
I mean, we actually have a product. It's a company called Star Stable, and it is horses. And we are working with a lot of girls that are into, bonding with animals, outdoor stuff, competitive 4-H. All that was the very beginning of what we did. Go to sort of your lowest hanging fruit first. And if they don't like it, then you're gonna know you are not ready, because they should be technically the closest to it passion-wise. And then you grow from there. But if you were to spread a blanket across it and put out a press release, it's gonna be picked up by like 2 places. It would have wasted your whole effort. So think bottom up and surgical. I know it's confusing. Marketing actually is, like I said at the beginning, it's an art. It's not simple. So I tried to outline the steps you take.
Okay. Any more questions? We have time for one more. Oh, yeah, one more question. Go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned using strong visuals. Could you give more specifics about that?
So, videos, number one, are great. It's the first thing that people tend to attach to, which is why, Vine and other tools are really so popular. Really beautiful screenshots or someone having the experience, not necessarily the game itself. Whatever's the best way to display what it is that you have to offer, take the time to get it right. So I'm just referencing this VR partner of ours because it was this week, but the unit itself, it's cool looking, but we had them do just a shoot that they shot themselves. I mean, with technology today, you can, of people experiencing it, everything from the beginning to the end. So we have tons of stuff to work with. And then people making comments on it. There's lots of stuff to use in social media. So just make sure it's sharp. I mean, you wouldn't, nowadays, you won't take a vacation unless you can look around the room and all around the resort. It's the same kind of concept.
Okay, well, we're out of time. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks.